Here's the unlimited custom domain name email address that you can do for free thanks to Gmail and Cloudflare. So the idea here, of course, is sending and receiving email from a custom domain name and have it all go into your own Gmail account. I'm going to walk you through the entire process, but that's the goal here. And so much of it is because Cloudflare offers free email routing for any domain name that's on there. So every email that's coming through, it just forwards it along to where you want it to go. In our case, it goes into our Gmail account that we can then use at any given time, right? So I have 2 Gmail accounts, but right in here, I can compose a brand new message just like that. And I can do this for as many custom email addresses that I want to. 2 primary requirements for this one. First off is a Gmail account. That's the @Gmail address itself. These are free. You can make a new one right now in 2 seconds. It doesn't take very long to make that happen. The next one is a custom domain name that you either own or have full control over. There's a big reason for that, but you need to have your own custom domain name. In my case, I actually purchased one from name.com before I realized Cloudflare's domain registration is actually not that expensive. But the thing is, you can register it wherever you need to, and you can still do this. You just bring it into Cloudflare, which is something I'll have to do in this one, so you'll see that happen. Of course, if you register in Cloudflare, you can skip that part where I actually bring it in. But that's the key here. Those are the main requirements. Let's go ahead and add in my domain name right now. Adding a domain name to Cloudflare is really straightforward. We really just change the name servers after we get them from our unique Cloudflare account. So go ahead and create a Cloudflare account, log in, you'll see something like this. You're just going to want to go into add domain. This is where you're going to go ahead and add in your domain. In my case, I'm using aircursor.com because I own that domain and I have full control over it. I did not register that domain in Cloudflare. Of course, if you did, you would find your domain under domain registration and all that. That's outside the scope of what I'm doing here. Instead, I'm going to be using aircursor.com. And so when I go to sign this up, you can absolutely go pro if you want to. We are going to go off of the free features. This allows us to use the email forwarding, which is what gives us that custom domain. So I'm going to go ahead and say, grab that free feature. The next step is to review our current domain name records. Now, I just purchased this domain, so it shouldn't really have any domain name records or DNS records just yet. If you didn't just purchase your domain, if you're using a pre-existing domain that already has things on it, like a website already hosted on it, maybe you already have some custom email, this process is going to be a lot more tedious because you're going to have to ensure that all of the records that you have are correct. So in my case, if I scroll down here, I already have a few records in here. The reason I have these records already is because where I registered the domain name, it already did give me some kind of standard coming soon pages that are on there. Now, if you already have a domain name managed somewhere else, you might want to turn off all of the proxy status in here just to make sure that you got everything working before you fully migrate to Cloudflare. We aren't migrating to Cloudflare right now. Feel free to reach out to them if you need help there. This is all about a brand new domain name, which is the recommended way I suggest you do this when you go to set up email for the first time. So this is kind of where you would start on all new projects. It's definitely where I'm going to start on all new projects, is getting that email activated. So in this case, since I am actually using a brand new domain, I'm okay with having Cloudflare proxy it, so I get a lot of the Cloudflare domain benefits as well. So I'll go ahead and do that. Next up, it's going to update my name servers. This is a key part that you need to update it to. In my case, my name servers are on the other registrar, or name.com. They're literally there, so I need to actually change them. This can take some time. It doesn't usually take more than 15 minutes, but it could take hours depending on where you are in the world and what's going on with where you registered it and all that. So do keep in mind that when you change these name servers, all of your domain name records will then be run through Cloudflare. So let's say, for instance, you are on name.com and you have your website all set up on name.com and you're used to changing the records there. You won't do that anymore. You will then use them on Cloudflare. This is true whether you use name.com, GoDaddy, AWS. It doesn't really matter. Once you change these name servers, that is what's going to manage all of your domain name. Now, that doesn't mean you can't use those other services. You totally can. You just need to change how you register those things. I'm happy to give some more insight on that stuff if you want. Let me know in the description if you want a more in-depth look at name servers and domain name management. But for now, what we've got is I need to actually change these. So I'm going to leave it here. I need to come back once they are changed and once they're updated and ready. I'm going to do that off the video because every domain name service is different. The idea is you need to look for NS records or name server records and then just change them to these two right here. Yours are likely going to be different from this as well. I would imagine that would be the case. My name servers are now updated on my domain registrar. Of course, if you purchase your domain name in Cloudflare, this pending name server update won't be there. But some of these other steps might. So just keep that in mind. Now, in my case, every once in a while, I'll probably refresh these domain names just to make sure it's working. In this case, what do you know? A few seconds later, it started working. This only took a few minutes for me to get to this point. So now what I want to do is actually start the process of using my email routing. This is the key thing. These are those free email addresses. So we're going to go ahead and get started, and I'm just going to go ahead and do my first one, hello@aircursor.com. Next, I need a destination email of some kind. This is forwarding my email somewhere. In my case, it's going to be aircursor@gmail.com, right? So I'm going to go ahead and select that one. We're going to go ahead and hit create and continue. Now, of course, it's going to go ahead and do a pending verification in here. It's going to quite literally send an email to this destination. This is actually very common when it comes to forwarding emails because, of course, you don't want spam. So jumping into my Gmail account for that specific aircursor@gmail email, I'm now getting this verified email routing address. Please do me a favor and don't use my email address. That would be great. But of course, even if you did, I can just, ignore it. But overall, here we go. I can now verify this email here, right? So I'm just going through the process of verifying that email that it's okay to forward these things along. It is now verified. There we go. So if I go back into email routing or just into the tab that I had open for this, I should be able to continue on. And what we see now are the required records that need to go into your domain name. So one of the big reasons to actually move your domain name to be hosted by Cloudflare is that it makes it really easy to add these new records that you might need. Now, of course, you probably could do this with another domain name hosting service, right? So like if you stuck with AWS Route 53, there's probably a way to do this still and just add in these MX records and this text record in there. That's probably not that hard to do. But the thing is, this is just so much easier. Just click add records and enable. Now, do keep in mind, if these records conflict with another email service, then you need to adjust things as you see fit to make all that work. It shouldn't conflict. There might be issues. It's hard to say because everyone's so much different and there's so many different ways you can go about doing this. So that's another reason I recommend having just a fresh domain to do this and just do it at the very start of your new project. So anyways, we're going to go ahead and add these records and enable them. So once they're added, they actually go into the DNS records on here. So even if your domain name was not activated yet, you can still add these records in because now they're in here. And then once it gets activated, they actually will work. So your old domain name host, if you have one, will still have those old records. So you could still use those old records as you see fit if you needed to. In our case, we don't need to. We just need to make sure that these domain name records are in there and working. So once you have that, we now have our email routing pretty much ready to go. We just need to start creating a few rules related to the routing itself. Since my domain is now active on Cloudflare, I'm going to go ahead and verify that that very first custom domain name actually works. So the way we do this, of course, is going into email routing and then going under routing rules, scroll down, we should see a custom email address in here already, because we added this a while ago and then we confirmed the destination email. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this right here. And I'm going to go into another Gmail account that I have, which in this case is hungrypie@gmail. Now do keep in mind, I do have two email addresses going on here. So we need to make sure that I can actually see both of them at any given time, just to make sure that I actually do have an email coming through. And I'm going to go ahead and compose to hello@aircursor.com. And we'll just go ahead and say, hello world, is this working? If it is, awesome. And we'll go ahead and send that. This is now sending. going into my other Gmail account. Let's see if it ends up working. There's a chance that it might not work yet. The reason it might not work yet has to do with DNS propagation, domain name system propagation. It's a massive system. It works around the world. And the idea here is we actually moved our domain name to another server. So it's pointed to another server, which does take some time for all servers around the world to understand this. Now, it's a little bit more complicated than that, but that's why sometimes you might get something that just takes a little bit of time before it comes through. Now, it's possible that we also get a spam message, and sure enough, I do get a spam message. What do you know? It actually went into spam, but there we go. We see that it now says hello@AI or aircursor.com. But the idea here is hungrypie@gmail is the thing being spammed, not hello@aircursor.com, right? This is the AirCursor inbox. So that thing's not being spammed, it's the other one. But nevertheless, I'm going to go ahead and remove it to not spam because it's not. But there we go. So we now have a way to talk to them. But the question is, how do I actually reply to them? So if I said hello there, notice that it actually puts in hello@aircursor as part of my carbon copy. We don't want that. We actually want it to be replying from hello@aircursor.com. That is one of the key things that we still need to break out. But before I do that, I want to actually add in, since it's verified, this custom email address, I'm going to add in a new one. I'm going to go ahead and create one here, and I'll go ahead and say Justin@aircursor, and I'm going to send it to an email, and I'm going to send it to that same email address. We're going to go ahead and save that. There it is. It's active. I can turn it off at any time. I can turn it back on at any time. So now I have two custom email addresses that go to the same, destination itself. Once again, I'll log into the Hungry Pie email here. I'll go ahead and send a message to Justin@aircursor.com and say, hey, what's up? Testing 1, 2, 3. Go ahead and send that. This should actually send it out. The important part about this too is that Gmail is not getting like error cannot find, right? It's actually sending these things out. The email address is actually going through. So back into my AirCursor email address, I should be able to see that email coming through. Once again, it also might go into spam, but I think I moved it from spam in the AirCursor inbox, so I think it's okay. But there we go. Now we see that it's coming to Justin@aircursor.com. So this alone might be something well worth doing. But the thing is, I want to be able to respond as these email addresses as well, because that's really what a custom email address is all about. Now we're going to send emails as our custom domain name through our regular Gmail account, so at gmail.com. Now, this process might not work in the long run. Just keep that in mind because Gmail was not designed to do this. They have business accounts specifically for this reason. But if your project is brand new, you're probably not going to want to just sign up for all of these things that start costing a bunch of money. So instead, we're going to use this method, which is fairly straightforward. It's a matter of creating a new account on Gmail. So if you go into Gmail and go into the settings for Gmail under accounts and import, we're going to send email as our custom domain. That's what we're going to do. But then we're going to use Gmail servers to send it for us. So Gmail is going to log into itself and then send it for us. We'll see what that does in just a moment. Now, in order for this to work, what we need to do is we need to create an app password, a password that's specific for software to log into Gmail for you. So instead of your personal password to log into Gmail, it's a one-off key. You can think of it as an API key. That's essentially what it is, but it's called an app password in Gmail. So the way we go about doing this is by clicking on our actual Google account. So we manage our Google account, and then we do a quick search for app passwords in here. And then we want to make sure that we select app passwords under security. That quick search is how I always do it. We need to verify our account. After I log in, I go to this part right here. This one I'm just going to call hello@aircursor.com app password for Gmail. I'm giving it a very robust name so that in the future, when I need to delete it, so I'll ignore the key for just a moment, but in the future, if I need to delete it, I know exactly what it is instead of some generic name. And there we go, right? So if I wanted to do one for, my Django project or for my Next.js project or whatever, I would put those things in there as well, right? And just to have those things created. And as you can see, it's really easy to just delete these things. As soon as you delete them, those passwords no longer work. So whatever is using those passwords will also no longer work, of course. So I'm going to leave it in as for Gmail and just use this one right here. I'm actually going to leave this page open for a moment. I might want to make reference of this, but I actually don't want to store it anywhere. It's too easy to just recreate a new one to have it stored also locally somewhere. Just create a new one if you need to and then delete the old one. So once we have this app password, I also recommend that you update your security. Do that same search that we did for app password on your Google account. Make sure you have two-step verification in there and potentially even authenticator, whether it's for your phone or authenticator or both or as many as possible. Make sure you do those steps because that will secure your account more, because right now we literally just create a password to our account, which leaves us vulnerable to being hacked, of course. So with this in mind, I'm going to go ahead and grab this here and I'm going to go back into Gmail and we're going to go ahead and go under settings here, see all settings, accounts and import. Once again, that's under this gear icon here. We go to see all settings, accounts and import, send email as, add another email address. This is going to be our custom email address, right? So the one that is going to be routed through Cloudflare. This, of course, is hello@aircursor.com. In my case, we want to treat it as an alias so that we can send it as this. If you don't treat it as an alias, then it just doesn't work as well. So just treat it as an alias. We do not need to have a different reply to address in there. You could if you wanted to, like you could put the same one in. It doesn't actually matter because it is going to duplicate itself. So you can leave it empty. I'm going to go ahead and hit next. This is the part that uses Gmail. This is the part that uses that app password. So if we grab that app password, we're going to copy that. We're going to paste it here. Now you can see by default, Gmail is trying to log into Cloudflare. At this point, Cloudflare does not have a way to send emails out. It only has a way to route them to a different destination. So we need to use a different server. We need to use Gmail's server, which is smtp.gmail.com. You can keep with the same port and keep TLS. This server is the same thing you would do on an application itself, a web app like Django or Next.js. That would be the same server you'd log in. The next is the username. The username is going to be for your Gmail account, your actual Gmail user, because that's what the app password is also for. So again, I'm going to be using aircursor@gmail.com, and that's it. So once I do this, it's going to go ahead and log into this account. I'm going to go ahead and say no. Notice it says a confirmation email link was sent to hello@aircursor.com. We have already seen that confirmation email will be forwarded to the same exact address, right? It might be forwarded somewhere else, depending on how you set up your Cloudflare application, right? So inside of email routing, whatever is the destination here for that email, that's where it's going to forward to. So it's quite literally forwarding it to the email you're going to send it out as, which is totally fine. But of course, we see that it's actually sent to hello@aircursor.com, not aircursor@gmail.com. Anyways, so we go ahead and confirm this right here. I can close this window as soon as it's confirmed. Once you actually do that confirmation, then you will be able to send your email as the AirCursor email address or hello@aircursor. You might need to refresh this page or give it a little bit of time before you do it. But you go into compose here, you should now see that there's two different ways on what you can do for composing emails in here. So now hello@aircursor, I'm going to go ahead and send it to my other email address that I have logged in, and I'll go ahead and say hello world from custom email and testing 1 2 3 and go ahead and hit send. Now, if it is not sent here, the thing that you would need to check is the app password, that you have this correct. The other thing that you would need to check is that Gmail hasn't prevented this altogether. But that's pretty much it. The settings that you have, you would also need to check, which is just smtp@gmail. So it's going to be something like this. Feel free to screenshot the video a few moments ago. But that's it, right? So your email address would be in there for that one. So, of course, now I just need to verify that it was sent. And what do you know? There is testing 1 2 3, and I can respond to you, right? Now, I did some tests off the video, which is why you see these in here. But the idea is response to you, come back into Gmail, it's coming in here, and eventually we will see that. there's a couple things at play as to why it might take a little while. Gmail's servers might take a little bit of time before it sends it. Cloudflare's routing takes some time to then reroute it to where it needs to go. So just keep that in mind, that it's not going to be instantaneous. I don't think it ever is with email. But nevertheless, we got that email coming back and it's responding here. So let's go ahead and just verify that from starting at my other email address. So I'll go ahead and jump in there. And here we go. And then I'll compose to hello@aircursor.com. And are you there yet? We are going to go ahead and hit send. Okay. And there we go. Oh, I sent it to myself. Oops, I should be in Hungry Pie. So let me just go ahead and reopen that one. And now we'll go ahead and do hello@aircursor.com. Oops. hello@aircursor.com. Are you there? And some gibberish. Send. Okay. So one of the bad sides of having multiple accounts from Gmail logged in is you get these things coming through. Okay. So email routing, missing emails. No, we're actually not. So this is from Cloudflare. So let's go ahead and see what's going on. Or maybe we are missing an email. It's hard to say. But I think it's because I sent an email to myself. Maybe that's one of them. But nevertheless, here we go. Are you there? Hungry Pie sent it. It came through. Everything's good. When I go to reply, I want it to reply as not hungry. I want it to reply as hello@aircursor.com, not the Gmail account. And sure enough, it does. If for some reason that's not applying correctly or replying correctly, just go into your accounts and import. And the settings here from when replying to message, reply from the same address the message was sent to. And that's it. You can repeat this process for every other email that you might want to use. What I would do is I would set up a specific Gmail account for the custom email address that you want to send from if you have multiple people that are going to be working with it. If you're the only person that does it, then yes, you can have a ton of them in here, send them to one inbox, and then that one single inbox would then respond as it was. Now, do keep in mind that if you are not using Gmail's account itself, that includes the mobile app, this process of replying might not work as cleanly as it does right inside of Gmail. It's pretty great, very simple to do. I'm really excited about this process because I'm going to use it on every project going forward. A custom domain name with email addresses that use that domain name makes your project just that much more legit. Now, I want you to think about it. If a startup emails you and it was at a Gmail account, you might be a little bit like, I don't know about this startup. Now, if they had a custom domain, you still might feel that way, but at the very least, you won't think about it with their actual email address. And I think that's the point here. Even if you liked the startup and you thought it was a good idea, they literally have no reason to not have a custom domain name thanks to Cloudflare's email routing and this little hacky way of doing it in Gmail. Now, I would imagine that this might not last for very long, at least for your project or your organization. If it starts to grow, this starts to become too cumbersome, and then you'll have to use paid methods. But the point here is you can use this on every project going forward for an extended amount of time. You might be able to use it for years and years and years, assuming Gmail continues to support this. I don't actually see a reason why they would stop. The only reason would be the email routing part, but that's what Cloudflare handles for us. So I think this is going to be around for a while, and it's definitely well worth doing. And of course, after you do it once or twice, you'll remember it's going to be super easy for you and all of your future projects. So thanks again for watching. Hopefully you got something out of this. I do want to see you in the next one. Now, of course, I have a few other things from Cloudflare that I collaborated with them on, including this one. So thanks to Cloudflare for sponsoring this series. We'll hope to see you next time. Thanks again.